After a marathon session yesterday, President Trump's impeachment trial now back in session today with opening statements. We'll have a live report from Capitol Hill with reaction from the president. And Governor David Ige discusses his 2020 State of the State address with our KITV4 team. More on his plans set in place this year for Hawaii.
Now, from Honolulu, for all of Hawaii, this is KITV4 Island News Midday.
Aloha and mahalo for tuning in to KITV4 Island News Midday on this Wednesday, January 22nd. I'm Lindsay Fukano. The Senate impeachment trial against President Donald Trump is on its second day. However, today is the first day for opening arguments. House Democrats have been ramping up their case as to why the president should be removed from office. Our Washington correspondent Matt Knadler is live on Capitol Hill with reaction from the president. Matt, good afternoon.
Lindsay, good afternoon here live on Capitol Hill, where Democrats continue to make that case tonight. During opening arguments earlier today, they really picked up where they left off with those House impeachment proceedings, now trying to make the case to all 100 senators that the articles of impeachment, essentially the charges against President Donald Trump, are now worth removing him from office. Let's take a look at some of those proceedings from earlier today. House impeachment leader Adam Schiff, the lead case manager here, spending much of the first couple of hours recapping the House findings, saying that President Trump put his own interests ahead of national interests. He told senators the president is guilty of abusing the power of his office, attempting to influence the 2020 presidential election through withholding military aid to Ukraine in exchange for an investigation into the Bidens and others. And then Schiff said that he told senators really what was he said a cover-up by not allowing senior administration officials and others to testify before the House, and therefore the president obstructed Congress. Schiff later tried to paint President Trump as the ringleader in all this, saying that the president knew what ambassadors were doing and his personal attorneys were asking Ukraine to do as well.
This is significant, for President Trump had no interest in fighting corruption, as he would claim after he was caught. Rather, his interest was in furthering corruption by the announcement of investigations that were completely without merit.
Meanwhile, President Trump has been keeping an eye on all of this as well when he was at the World Economic Forum in Switzerland. And this morning he was asked about the issue of witnesses during the trial. He said he would let the Senate decide if that happens, didn't directly answer that question of whether or not he would support that. Now, in case you missed it earlier in the morning hours today, the Senate approved the rules of the trial. It will not allow for witnesses just yet, but the president remaining confident as well that evidence of that phone call with Ukraine officials, not witnesses, will be the deciding factor.
We're doing very well. I got to watch enough. I thought our team did a very good job, but honestly, we have all the material. They don't have the material.
Said that he would also like to sit in on this trial as well. He said as well that he would like to sit in the front row. And talking about Democrats here, he said stare at their corrupt faces. So this trial will be continuing here for the next few hours, likely until about 9-10 o'clock Eastern time. Again, Democrats with about 24 hours to make their case. We're expecting about 8 of those hours to come down today. Live on Capitol Hill, Matt Knadler, KITV4 Island News.
Matt, thank you. And stay with KITV4 for continuing coverage of the Senate impeachment trial. Read and watch all of our stories on KITV.com and download our free mobile app for breaking news updates. And back here at home, a high surf warning is in effect for north and west facing shores on Oahu. That will remain in effect until 6 p.m. tonight. Now, the Department of Emergency Management says waves could hit 25 to 35 feet on north facing shores and 15 to 25 feet on west-facing shores. Some surfers on the North Shore were out early in the morning to get in on the action.
Everyone's been out surfing, just talking about, oh my God, if it was rainy one more day, we would have just lost our minds. So we're just soaking up the sun, and it feels really good that the sun's back out.
And Emergency Management wants to remind the public to watch out for rip currents during this time and also follow signs that are posted at our local beaches. And we'll turn now, taking a live look at Hilo Bay. This is from our Hilo Hawaiian Hotel camera. Our Lei Ui Koholokolo is in now with a look at today's forecast. Lei, how's it shaping up outside?
You know, looking so good out there.
All right, Lei, thank you. Governor David Ige appeared on Good Morning Hawaii today to discuss his 2020 State of the State address. Now, he responded to criticism from Republicans that his speech fell short and gave more details on his plans to keep Hawaii residents here in the islands. And he says in spite of the challenges living in Hawaii, we have one of the lowest unemployment rates in the country. So it's not about creating jobs, it's about creating and filling higher paying jobs.
I hear often from businesses that they can't find the people they need for good paying jobs. So we want to connect the dots, close that loophole, work with the companies who are looking for employees and willing to pay, and making sure our educational institutions are generating job applicants for them.
And Governor Ige also has a multi-pronged approach to address the high cost of living. He hopes to gradually raise the minimum wage, bring tax relief to low-income families while creating more affordable childcare and housing. Still to come, the coronavirus from China continues to sicken people here in the United States, and it's also taking a major toll on indices on the stock market. We'll have more of the impacts of the Wuhan virus and how that's impacting air travel coming up on KITV4.
If you can't work, what you're going through is hard. In Hawaii, paying for housing, healthcare, and food is hard.
KITV4 Island News Midday.
Welcome back. The switch to 5G internet connection is promising to revolutionize the way we surf the net, chat with our loved ones, and even navigate our cars. And experts say access to the next generation wireless network will be better than ever this year. In today's Consumer Watch, Mary Maloney gives us a closer look at how 5G will impact our lives.
5G is here. Faster speeds, speedier connections, and seamless streaming. But most of us haven't seen these promised perks. That's because 5G coverage is still pretty limited across the country. But that may change this year. Tech experts say 5G phones and networks will increasingly become more accessible to everyone this year. So how fast is 5G? Experts say it's internet speed that's up to 100 times faster than 4G. Here's how it works. Much of 5G network will travel over super high frequency airwaves, which bring faster speeds and more bandwidth. Because they can't travel through walls or windows, wireless companies are having to install possibly millions of miniature cell towers on top of lampposts and buildings. That process has been slow as wireless companies roll out the service one market at a time. Experts say 5G coverage is expanding much faster than the pace of 4G rollout a decade ago. Right now in the U.S., all 4 of the major wireless providers are offering some kind of 5G service. Back in December, T-Mobile launched what it called the first nationwide 5G network. And the other 3 providers say they too will have coast-to-coast service later this year. In Consumer Watch, I'm Mary Maloney.
The Centers for Disease Control and Prevention says it's testing several people in the U.S. for the Wuhan coronavirus. The virus has killed 17 people and sickened more than 500 others, most of them in China. Yesterday, the CDC announced the first case of the virus in the U.S. It's a man in his 30s who lives in Washington state. And the CDC says it's received specimens that are for testing for several people in the U.S. And they have traveled to Wuhan, China, or they've had close contact with someone who may have the virus. Now, the virus was first identified in Wuhan in mid-December. That strain has been linked to a market in the city that was selling seafood and live animals. This continues to take a major toll on indices here in the U.S., with the Dow Jones Industrial closing down today by just under 10 points. Now, we'll go back outside now with a live look at the windward side from our Windward Mall camera. Our Lei Ui Lee Kaholakula is in now with us. All right, Lee, thank you. After Sunday's tragic events, some people living in the Diamond Head community could be suffering from trauma and stress without even realizing it. I spoke to a medical professional and found out diagnosis and prevention are key issues involving Keiki.
KITV4 Island News Medical Minute, sponsored by Ekahi Wellness.
According to therapists, the fatal shooting of 2 Honolulu police officers, a fire that destroyed 7 homes, and a neighborhood on lockdown could cause long-term emotional damage.
Someone in your own family would be put in a dangerous situation. It could be triggered.
An expert from Child and Family Service shared with KITV4 today the #1 behavior issue parents should watch out for: anxiety.
And you may not even realize that you're having anxiety around this issue right now. It may come days later. It may come at the next event that happens.
Therapists also tell us that children are affected by news media coverage. But according to Child and Family Service, there are ways families can cope in the aftermath of a tragic event.
People really want to be looking out for heightened anxieties, maybe some fears that their children are having, not wanting to leave the house because they're afraid that something might happen in the neighborhoods and communities.
Experts also recommend children express their feelings. People seeking help can call the Child and Family Service Parent Line at 526-1222. Lindsay Fucano, KITV4 Island News. Still to come, find out how attending this weekend's Hula Bowl can also help with the families of our fallen officers. And still ahead, a run to remember. We'll tell you about one boy's mission to honor the 2 officers who sacrificed their lives in Sunday's fatal shooting. Those stories coming up next on KITV4.
It's KITV4 Island News Midday.
Welcome back. Here's a look at surf conditions off Pipeline on Oahu's North Shore yesterday afternoon. You could see some fun-sized surf with head-high sets, along with sunshine and light winds as well. Now, these favorable conditions, they brought many surfers out in the water to enjoy the waves, and today we can expect more light winds and sunny skies. But Lay, surf is going to be on the rise again. Lay, thank you. As we've been covering here on KITV4 in Washington, President Trump's impeachment trial continues today following a marathon session yesterday. The fierce debate over the ground rules stretched well past midnight, but we are learning that the Senate has adopted Mitch McConnell's resolution. Elizabeth Herr is on Capitol Hill now with details.